Hi, good evening, everybody. We are live now. So the actual class will start after 10 minutes. Hi, Raki. Good evening. Hi, Prasida. Good evening. Nandini, good evening. Namaste. It's 6 o'clock now. So we'll wait as usual for initial 5 minutes till 6:05. And by that time, if you have any question or anything to share which you want me to include in the initial phase of the session, as already there are few questions from Bidyut, and there was one question from Rakhi and Vikrant also, kind of related question. Yeah, SP, good evening. So till Bidyut, Vikrant, Meenu actually just landed, it seems. She messaged me. So I'm not sure whether she'll be joining soon. Hope the audio video is good at your end. If you just can confirm. Yeah, this iconic confirmation is instant. SP has given just the iconic smiley. Yeah, Bidyut has joined. Good evening, Bidyut. Yeah, thanks, Prasida, for confirming. Yeah, Rakhi, thank you. So it's almost 6:05, just few seconds. Right, so we'll do the silence for 1.5 minutes now, and then we'll start the session. Good evening, guys. Welcome to the session. Today is the 6th day, and we are reflecting upon the assignments of day 5. The topic was philosophy. Yes, welcome, Minu. Yeah, no, not at all. You are late. So you are on time, and I received your message also. So I already communicated to the participants that you just landed. So I really appreciate the kind of enthusiasm you have. Welcome Tulika, welcome Vikrant. So we just completed the silence and we are just starting the session. So before going on to the reflections, let's take a look to the discussion that we had in the morning, and we got a few questions also related to that discussion. So I'll try to address that, and okay, Vikrant, if you can just go out and come back to the session again, because the video is just a still image right now, and you will find the preceding slides. Okay. So can somebody reply through comment? Okay, let me type it. So we are live and audio video is good. So yeah, so in case if you are not able to watch it, you need to manage with the recordings. We'll proceed now. So I received a few questions from Vidyut, beautiful questions. Thanks a lot, Vidyut, for posting these needful questions. So the first question was, children sometimes refuse to take some natural food like bitter gourd, but we try to convince them to eat, for we think bitter gourd is good for health, though the voice of the organism reject for it bitter taste. for its bitter taste. What should be the best? So best is honoring the voice of the organism, undoubtedly, because you see, it's completely myth to consider that bitter gourd is good for health. Everything is good for health if it is natural and acceptable by the voice of the organism. So compulsion to accept it. So bitter gourd definitely is not harmful because it is not irritating. But if it is not liked and somebody is not enjoying having it, he or she should not. So we should leave it on the decision of the individual, be it a child or grown up. So this is our irrational decision to compel a child to consume bitter gourd. So you need to be very careful about that. Number one. Number two, the second question was, in case of injury followed by swelling, as swelling of part in case of children's, how we will manage without medicine. So we are actually programmed to manage without medicine with youth. Now how the things are happening, in case of injury, it is same the stages as innervation, toxemia, irritation, inflammation. So swelling is inflammation. So all these four stages are one by one happening in case of injury. When we get injured, we are actually innervated because the body tries to recover from the injury on itself. So it eats up the vitality at the first go. Then it tries to actually throw out the toxins that are created during the injury. And we experience this, that the blood flows and all the waste materials get flowed away. Yeah, Nandini asked, how can we manage fracture injury in a 4-year-old child? I'm coming to that. Now, after innervation, it is toxemia, then there will be pain, irritation, and then there will be swelling, inflammation. So one by one, the stages are progressing such a way to get back the homeostasis. So body is working. Now our responsibility is to maintain the hygiene. Maintain the hygiene in terms of the dust and all those things which are there in the injury. We need to remove that by water application. That's it. Clean water application. Then we need to expose the wound to the air, water, and sunlight till the point of irritation. The sunlight should not irritate the wound. We need to remember that. So we need to keep the wound in the open for better recovery as much as possible. So if it is not possible to keep the wound open, if there is a chance of getting it soiled or dirt with unknown kind of particles, chemicals or anything, so that time we should use a cotton cloth which should allow the air passage. So kind of bandage you can consider. So that's what we need to do. And in case of dryness, we can use a wet cloth to okay, so Vidyut is saying not wound but swelling. So it's not an open wound, but internal swelling is that toxic isolation. If you go back to the 7 stages of disease, swelling is nothing but the inflammation stage at any space. So that is actually recovering from the disturbance and bringing back the homeostasis. So swelling is isolating that space for the toxins, and it is trying to throw that toxin in different means. So we need to understand that, right? So for the swelling, again the norms are same. You can use wet cloth if it is drying or if it is irritating a lot. Wet cloth, nicely squeezed, and keep it open to the air, water, and just ask the individual to go for rest. If the swelling and the pain is too high, then the individual can go for fasting, which is the ultimate rest of the physiological vitality spans. right? Now, in case of a fracture, as Nandini asked, the fracture also needs to be dealt mechanically to allow the body to rejoin the fractures. So case to case basis, it has to be perceived. Generalized comment cannot be made because the type of the fracture will be different for different people. So you need to understand the gravity of that. Right. Coming to the next question, which is very serious question and needs rational understanding to decipher the meaning. Vidyut says celibacy is appreciated in yoga, but as per unison, if any part is not run naturally, it creates vacuum in next part. If so, PM Modi not go through union phase, yet unison is not as vacuum. Swami Vivekananda's life also better unison without union. Please need classification or clarification, maybe he meant. Right. So see, first of all, I personally do not know what is yoga. So I cannot comment that if celibacy is appreciated in yoga or not. Now I will tell that how the nature has programmed ourselves, which is not an opinion, but a fact. It's a truth that we all are devised to execute, repair, reproduce, and react. Now, we cannot deny that fact. Now, you have a capability to execute, but if you are not executing it, then it's just a stupidity and creating vacuum, knowingly or unknowingly. Now, we saw a case of Richard Overton, who is still alive, 112-year-old, every day consuming alcohol. I'm just taking the opposite example. So we analyzed that and we appreciated that he is having a great genetic disposition. Now, seeing that example, if we aspire to copy him, then it is again a stupidity, because we cannot guarantee our disposition and our experience, because everything is unique. Every experience of the individual are unique. So here, comparing with the exceptional claims, I must say claims, and merging ourselves to that is a kind of irrational approach. So now coming back to the point of celibacy, if celibacy is meant by abstinence from the act of sex, which is absolutely fine, without giving any enforcement. But the sense of sex is connected to the procreation, which is a blissful experience. Now, sense of sex is not limited to the act of sex, we need to understand. So, two partners, those who have engaged themselves in a process of procreation, if not executing the act of sex, but loving each other a lot, that makes the procreation blissful. We need to understand that gravity. So the love is not limited to the act of sex. This is the understanding. And definitely when we say that we need to be very rational about the act of sex, because act of sex produces the chemicals which are very important, which has life in it. Now, for producing that chemical in the body has to work a lot. So if you can enjoy your love without act of sex, it is blissful. It is a wise choice, without suppression if you are doing it. So it's not about the kind of celibacy enforcement. If it is a choice not to use the vitality to produce that kind of chemicals that are created during the act of sex, then it is a wise decision perhaps, but without suppression it should be. So you need to be very dialectic in approaching the idea of sex. Due to the paucity of time, we are not covering the sense of sex in a complete manner, but in our residential camps, we actually give some special time, extra time on this topic. Maybe in the next batch, we can plan for including that in the level 2 as well. Right. So online level 2. Right, here I get some question. When couples opt not to have children, then union is in vacuum. Is that right? So what are the implications? So the implications is, Nandini, the implication is not executing a capability which is already programmed. So this is again not an opinion. This is a fact that we have that capability and we are just opting not to execute it. How foolish is that? Because every execution of the capability gives us growth, gives us pleasure of life. If we choose not to do it, that's a personal choice, but cannot be claimed as a wiser choice. Coming to the next question from Nandini, what about couples adopting babies? Do they proceed to unison in vacuum, or are they able to treat the adopted child as an extension of their own self, or does that depend from case to case? Actually, the offspring is not genetically a part of them. So this is, you have already answered this, case to case basis, it has to be addressed. But if the couples do have the capability to reproduce and going for adoption without going for procreation, the biological procreation, this is again a kind of shallow decision in terms of not executing the capability, and that will reduce the pleasure of life for sure. Now one can substitute that pleasure with something else. So adopting a child is a choice, is a cognitive growth that can be executed. Cognitive growth is seeing myself in others, which is not generated through my materialistic contribution, which is the biological child. So we need to understand this very dialectically. So that's adopting a child is an execution of unison. That is not execution of union. We need to understand that. And if it is naturally there, like we are not able to produce, there is some natural incapability. For example, the transgenders, those are the facts. So they cannot produce children. So that we need to accept it, right, as a reality. But as an ideal state of the human being, we are equipped with that reproductive capability. And if that capability is there, we must execute at the right time. Right? So at the right time is, it has to be after the end of the union, which is the optimum physical growth. Optimum physical growth is the end point of the phase. Then the union starts. So after attaining the optimum physical growth, one can shift herself or himself to the union stage. Right. So these were the questions, and then Rakhi just asked a question here. Yeah, when we say universe is moving towards its maturity, what are we saying? Universe is not mature now? Yes, obviously it's not mature now. How can we claim that anything is matured? Because it's a journey. It's a journey. It's always, the claim can be that today I'm more matured than yesterday. But the journey says that I should be more matured tomorrow comparing to today. So is the universe. So we are the universe. Universe is nothing other than us. So if we are maturing day by day, then the universe is also maturing day by day. Right? So with that note, we'll conclude the morning discussion, continuation of the morning discussion, and we'll proceed to the reflection. So the first reflection, okay, so the statements of the day were, share your reflection on the unique growth of philosophy of an individual over an understanding of a common philosophy of a group. So it's a comparison of common philosophy and unique philosophy with your understanding. That's the first question. And the second question was reflect on the proposal of evil is an illusion. Now the first submission is from Minu. Minu says philosophy is a theory that acts as a guiding principle for behavior. So nice single word, a single sentence definition of philosophy. Any theory which is based on dialectic materialism, rational analysis, is worthy of thought, assimilation, and embracement individually. Common philosophies like capitalism, socialism, mysticism, etc., need to be rationally analyzed at an individual level, and this allows us to assimilate the needful aspects of these into our own unique principles of behavior. Each one of us, has, this is something I couldn't decipher, our own pursuits. Each one of us has our own, this must be that, has our own pursuits, and rational analysis gives us a strong ground for it. The essence of various philosophies emerges in this pursuits. So this is very crisp writing, and there is no comment or observation on this. Next is evil. Evil is an illusion. By that, by that time, I see a question from Nandini. So surrogacy without a partner is also a defect. It's a choice. It's a personal choice. It's not connected to the health, Nandini. So we cannot comment on the personal choices going one and after the individual choices. So this is a choice. Now, if you are asking that surrogacy versus own execution of the reproductive capability, definitely naturally own execution of the reproductive capability is far better, wiser choice, right? So continuing with the assignments. Evil is an illusion. An act perceived as evil happens because of any of the two actions: revenge, or limiting or lack of knowledge, or the irrational understanding of truth. Evil act harms the person executing it because revenge is a toll on his own vitality. Also, if limited knowledge or irrational understanding of truth makes someone exercise that act, then it is a misinterpretation of his intention. The doer feels he is right. As a perceiver, misinterpreting his intention is an illusion, because the doer feels the act is needful. So evil is unnatural for doer and interpreter both. Being non-judgmental and non-discriminative is the way we must train our mind to be able to seek truth. This is again another crisp response. So there is no observation in this response. So I'll proceed to the next submission. Before that, I'd like to share something. When yesterday I was reading out these assignments, actually my office is connected to my house. The front portion is made an office, and my voice is pretty loud, as you hear. It goes to the next room where Montaj's mother and Montaj used to play and study or something they do. So Rakhi, Montaj's mother, overheard that I am saying that the assignments are chronologically ordered. So she helps me in the process, actually. So chronological ordered, and by that you get to know that who has submitted late. So I got really scolded that what am I doing? Submitting late is a problem, is a fault of the individual that is being projected with my statement. And I realized it's so. So, and I stopped the chronological order now on, because if it is submitted, it is submitted. We should be matured enough to identify that and honor that. So, I must accept that that statement of mine was non-dialectic, irrational. Yeah. So coming to the next, not the next submission, but the next reading of the reflection. So yeah, Raki. We uniquely experience our philosophy, which is assimilated by our own experiences, understanding, and rational thinking. And our rational thinking, our questioning and counter questioning, it is our personal journey. It is our unity with nature. Just like our fingerprints and vitality, our philosophy is also unique. The harmonious synchronization of our perceived, analyzed, and assimilated aspects are our philosophies. The alignment of the conscious mind with nature is directly linked with the execution of reasoning capability, connection between cause and effect. Anything accepted without reasoning leads to violence within us. If we understand non-violence rationally, in its true sense, we would practice it irrespective of anyone else following it or not. The truth of nature is interpreted differently by different people under different circumstances. Truth is only one. Ethics evolve. We cannot claim our ethics as common ethics and impose on others. End justifies the means is not acceptable. Means are as important as the end, and you can never reach the desired end if means are compromised. The primary characteristic of truth is it is unchangeable, unique. It does not have a substitution. It lacks confusion. Truth offers freedom. Freedom is the highest state of health. Any dependency is enervating for our existence. Therefore, common philosophy of a group would be broad-based, superficial, more of an imposition. Excellent submission, Raki. So it can't be better than this. Sometime I felt while reading it for the first time. So and justifies the means is not acceptable. You are very clear in communicating that. Thank you. Thanks for it. Now the next statement, reflection on the next statement. Evil is an illusion. There is nothing evil in nature. Nature is neutral. Lack of education, lack of awareness, lack of conscious choices, lack of rational thought process cause what we call evil. Illusion is wrong or misinterpreted perception of sensory experience. If out of revenge someone acts, it harms the individual executing the act as she or he is acting against nature. Nature does not support negativity. When we act against our natural programming, we suffer. Our brain cannot register a negative command. Our beyond conscious mind, which occupies the largest part of the brain, does not have the capability to identify the negative thought. Another reason for evil act could be lack of knowledge of the truth, lack of maturity, where both the parties ignore the truth as one is defending or justifying his or her action as the right action and the other is trying to prove the action evil or person bad. Example, blind man and elephant, where each was right and none was correct. If psychologically we deny accepting evil, we would never be harmed. So see here the observation on the red points of negativity and negative. See, these can be rephrased in such a manner which you have already mentioned here. Nature is neutral. You know, nature does not support negativity, because negativity term itself is an interpretation. So you need to understand that while explaining this serious understanding of evil as an illusion. So mentioning about negativity or positivity will be a polarization. So you should support the neutrality as the best virtue in the process of reflection on the given statement. Evil is an illusion, right? Yeah, next is SP. Hope SP is there. I'm not sure Raki was there in the live. Because of the network issues, people get out and come back. So anyway, if she was not there, she can watch the video, watch the recording. Yeah. So the first response, the reflection from SP: among all the living beings, the difference between a human being and any other being, that is plants and creatures, is the presence of intellect. Plants have partially developed mind, whereas all the creatures have fully developed mind but no intellect. That is the reason why plants and creatures are aligned with the nature and have no choice of their own. Whereas human beings, since possess intellect, have a choice to align or misalign with the nature as per their understanding and awareness. Therefore, mankind is distinguished from plants and animals by this construction of philosophy. Being gifted with intellect and having the power of thinking and decision making triggers the building of individual philosophy in mankind. This could be matter, spiritual, or combination of both as per the awareness of an individual. So nice explanation, but I object on the understanding and comparing the other creatures and plants, because dialectically speaking, this consideration that other creatures and plants lacks intellect is just an assumption, human assumption, just to make ourselves superior than others. So no intellect cannot be claimed, and everybody has got their choice. So we perceive that they are living in sync with the nature. That could be a higher intellect they have. So we cannot claim that they do not have intellect to prove our intellects. So that's just an observation, SP. You can actually reflect on that. And the next, he continued, the materialism is an important part of nature cure, where the pure nature cure is claimed to be a practice of dialectic materialism and considers material supplied by nature as the building of existence, which is classified as RAW materials, or the raw materials. There are certain group philosophies which can be considered, that is socialism, capitalism, mysticism, giftism. Here it is important to understand that we cannot deny or discard the individual philosophy for the sake of common philosophy of a group, but consider the good points of group philosophy on the basis of the unique individual philosophy for the benefit of mankind. So again, benefit of mankind is colored as orange color. So this is again a polarization, right? Benefit or not non-benefit. And another observation in this portion is talking about the group philosophy. So philosophical concepts are socialism, capitalism, mysticism, giftism. But when we say a group is having philosophy, which is a myth, a group cannot have a philosophy, because the individuals, those who are part in the group, cannot be taken for granted for having a same philosophy. So a group philosophy, the word is itself a myth. Please reflect on that. So now the next question next statement was really very methodically presented by SP. The act of evil can be categorized into two types: out of revenge due to lack of knowledge and awareness, or awareness. Are you there, SP, in the live? The issue here is we always try to find intention behind someone else's mistake or crime and tend to go for revenge to satiate our consciousness, which never happens. In fact, it harms us more in turn and makes our life miserable. We need to give up this judgmental attitude and try to understand the circumstances one has gone through. It could be due to limited knowledge of a person or lack of awareness of the real facts or the truth. Let us understand that behind any culprit, there is a victim crying for help. I love this last sentence. Let us understand that behind any culprit, there is a victim crying for help. We need to identify the victim and heal him. This process of merciful healing and act of compassion makes our life better. This is truly a win-win situation and leads to happiness. To make it happen, we need to surrender the ego and show the compassion. The major benefit of this way of handling and knowing that the act of evil is an illusion will be that we will conserve a lot of vitality and can lead a healthy lifestyle. The last paragraph is mind-blowing. Just I have an objection on the word of heal, because heal puts the perceiver at the top of the person who is being perceived. So the healing is from within. You know, healing is very responsible word which comes from within. Just that we need to support and create a circumstance so that the individual can heal himself. So healing is kind of a messiah imposition on the self, that I can heal you kind of interpretation can be happen, you know. So we need to be very careful about the words that we choose. Yes. Now next submission is from Vidyut. Vidyut, are you there in the group? I'll start reading. Let him respond. Philosophy is defined as the most basic beliefs, concepts, and attitudes of an individual or group. Individual philosophy is an indispensable way of making better choices and lead a more inspired life. The habit of assimilation through rational analysis gives a strong foundation of philosophy for an individual. To grow a unique individual philosophy, one should go through the philosophy of different groups. Every group has their basic belief and concept. Among those, some are true and some may be the theory, only which were not rationally established facts. To grow an individual philosophy, one should dialectically rationalize the common philosophy of the group with his or her reasoning capacity and accept those truths which she can reason out. Irrational acceptance of any thoughts or concept hinders the real health and happiness. Therefore, to maintain natural alignment, practice the truth only which you can rationally found practical to inspire your life and thus conserve vitality. Very nice submission. Very nice submission. Just again the same observation, the common philosophy, common concept of the philosophy could be a good word to select. Common philosophy of the group is a myth which doesn't exist at all. We consider it exists, but that's again irrational consideration. So every group has basic belief and concept. So this every group has cannot be like a kind of constitution can be given to a group, which is just a concept, but we cannot claim that, because belief is a kind of emerged aspect, and for the emerged aspect, we cannot make it common, general. It has to be emerging uniquely from within for you, for every individual separately. So this aspect we need to understand, right? Actually, if we say in a broad aspect, in nature, nothing is good or bad, only good or only bad has no individual existence. All the good has some bad effect in some way to the universe, and also all the bad are good in some way. Good or bad have no difference in quality, but only different in quantity. Suppose day and night, both are judged by light and both have light but are different in quantity. Night has less light, and on the other hand, day has more light. Evil and goodness, both judged by goodness, is also the quantity difference. Evil has less goodness, all mankind are good, some are very good, and some very less, which we call bad. Now, since birth, we do a lot of activities influenced by different situation, go through different types of inspiration, etc., and all leaves an impression beyond conscious mind, impression on beyond conscious mind. Eventually, we develop an individual philosophy which may or may not be rationally justified. So here again, the emphasis of the good or bad is kind of polarization, which can be actually replaced with a neutral word. So all organisms are meant to be neutral, so this good and bad justification. So you can just reflect on this aspect of replacing the word good by neutrality. As a result of irrational philosophy or due to lack of rational knowledge, the action becomes less good, which we call evil. So evil action is a wrong perception, and seeing evil is also an illusion, as if we react with revenge. It hampers out thought and vitality, hampers our thought and vitality, and thus sees our health and happiness. Very nicely presented, the last portion. Next is submission from Nandini. A common philosophy of a good. This is on the individual philosophy and the group philosophy. A common philosophy of a group is akin to a religion one is born into. It begins with particular customs and rituals which are not mostly questioned, and not observing has an attached misgiving. Nandini, are you there in the group? Our family is a part of a larger community, of a community of people who are further linked together into a region, religion, and so on. Each group has its own preferences, beliefs, even languages and dialects. Their regional attributes can be distinctly seen in their daily lifestyle and food habits. Over the years and generations, these have crystallized into folklore and their unique philosophy. Our parents pass on this conditioning to us in the form of samskar or culture. Generally, a child is instructed that you should not steal, or you should not lie, etc., as it is considered that he is too small to reason. But when he sees that his father is sitting in his shop, weighs 900 grams of sugar for his customers, but takes money for 1 kilogram, he is shaken with this hypocrisy. He suffers enervation within. So drinking milk twice a day is good for him. The TV ads also pursues us. So even if his stomach aches, he must have it. We must all work hard is the common stricture and moral lectures is what he grows up with. He must have also believed that Ramayana and Mahabharata are actual events because the whole group believes so. The child is considered incapable of reason, but at every age, a certain flexibility can allow a dialogue to change a belief to a uniquely personal idea that is not rejected when the time comes. The common belief system stems from an idea of dominance, a requirement for group members to behave in a particular way. It is a superficial layer which cloaks an underlying fear and insecurity as it does not encourage reasoning. Now each individual is unique and his intellectual growth is also different. So with great awareness, practiced neutrality, a child can be brought up to make reasoned decision from an early age so that he can develop his own unique understanding of any situation. This can happen if his caregivers themselves have a greater sense of sense and are secure, not egoistic, and have high vitality. Independent, reasoned thinking of individual group members can lead to great heights of creative pursuits, and intelligence as individuals are not shackled by limiting norms, curbing their freedom. An example is literary freedom, which has accorded highly earlier, but now is at the mercy of bigots who disrupt discussions. Like in the case of Salman Rushdie. Also, the highly evolved culture revealed by Khajuraho that accorded a high degree of individual sexual freedom as contrasted to restricted parda system of harem. So I have an observation on this projecting Khajuraho as a great exposer or great culture of sexual freedom as contrasted with the restricted parda system of harem, because these are two opinions that we are discussing. Actually, the understanding of sex connecting with the procreation is the highest degree of developing sense of sex. So the Khajuraho, as I know, I do not go deeper into that, but as I know, it's all relishment or the projection of the act of sex, which is a shallow explanation of sex in any way. So that cannot define our sexual freedom. Sexual freedom as act of sex is a shallow proposition. So that I thought to reflect upon. Now the next submission: evil is the absence of good. It is wickedness, profound immorality, commonly associated with neglect, revenge, fear, hatred, selfishness, ignorance, etc. Evil is perceived commonly as opposed to good, where good must prevail and evil defeated. But in Buddhist spiritual practices, both good and bad are perceived as an antagonistic duality that must be overcome by achieving neutrality of nirvana state. Carl Jung, in his book Answer to Job, depicts evil as the dark side of God. People tend to believe that evil is something external to them. It is like a shadow projected onto others. A shadow is like an illusion. An illusion describes misinterpretation of true sensation. So, fluttering white sheet on a dark night frightens like a ghost. Some illusions are based on general assumptions made by the brain during perception. A moral evil is a result of a moral negative event with intentional action or inaction by an agent like a murderer. Like a murder, when a person is culpable and and a natural evil is due to a natural calamity. In case of revengeful act, a person suffers and harms himself as he is under a delusion and he does not hear the voice of the organism. Any kind of punishment or discipline or enforcement is anti-nature, as this does not cure, it only suppresses. Example, a ban on plastic could not be sustained and fines were imposed. Dialectically, a group of people and online communities have started collecting plastic waste, reduced their consumption of this material in their lives, found alternatives, distributed cloth bags, carry their own still glasses, spoons, etc., as they do not self cheat. So, the illusion evil of plastic is managed by conscious and reasoned dialectics at a very small rate. The evil of child marriage in Rajasthan had a chance to work in villages of Rajasthan with an NGO. So Nandini had a chance to this for legal literacy. We found that punishment exists only in statute books. The grassroots reality is very different. So young boys and girls are married of an Akshaya Tritiya with no intervention from any enforcement agency, even in absence of complaints. We brought about a debate among youngsters with suggestions on legal provisions to assist them. So affirmations started to come from them that they would stand up against these practices. After a while, child marriages began to decline. Evil or good is only an impression. The universe is neutral. It appreciates neither a push nor a pull, but is constantly evolving. Evil dies its own death when no attention is paid to it. Thus, through dialectics, the so-called suppression tactics of the community could be examined for their larger benefit. So, excellent submission. Though it is long, I know people may have the lack of attention to continue longer read, but these are dialectic explanation and sharing of the experience. Thanks, Nandini. Next is from Vikrant. The conventional meaning of philosophy is the study or creation of theories about basic things such as the nature of existence, knowledge and thought, or about how people should live their life. Philosophy is divided into four major areas of study, which are metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, and logic. The philosophy changes as per various factors such as geography, religion, philosophers, etc. Targeting to group of people or population, the emphasis is more on spirit over matter, while finding meaning of life and other abstract concept. While nature cure believes in dialectical materialism, emphasizing more on matter over spirit. So, as for nature cure philosophy, depends totally on the individual who should concentrate on matter management first by listening to the voice of the organism. So here a small observation that this comment more on matter over spirit is a little objectionable, because the actual sense it is the matter is the primary and spirit is the most important. So you understand what I mean, right? Matter is the primary, that's the starting point. We cannot neglect that, but we can neither neglect the spirituality as well, because that is the most important aspect. So the primary is something else which we should start with, but ultimately the spirituality is the ultimate goal. The unison is the ultimate goal. So there is this comment on matter over spirit is a kind of shaky comment. Matter is a primary for sure. That is why it is the materialistic science which considers that the matter is a primary. Without the matter, nothing can happen. But over time, the spirituality also is given with its due importance dialectically. Right? Hope I'm clear on that. So, are there Vikrant in the group? It is his individual experience which defines his own philosophy, which can differ from others with some basic similarities. This analogy can be applied to other living organisms who do not follow any philosophy defined by others, but believe in their own growth by absorbing RAW in various forms as per their structure. This thus common philosophy of a group is a myth. The last paragraph is mind-blowing. Thank you. Yeah, priority. So Vikrant actually couldn't reflect upon the second question. So yeah, so we'll go ahead with Prasida. Prasida's first submission. Share your reflection. That one. Okay. So group is a phenomena experienced for a particular task. I am an individual person who likes to be part of the group for some task, and then I am on my own. The same holds for philosophy as well. I can never follow a leader or be a part of the cult, as I would never agree everything that is being imposed or practiced. I pick thoughts, actions, ideas from individuals, group that I can understand, relate, relate to, and believe in. Constantly, I am unlearning old beliefs that that are challenged by nearly learned, newly learned rational. It is difficult to separate, but I do it. I do practice certain rituals, festivals that I don't understand at all, only for my parents. Even though I have grown up, I am unable to challenge or change their beliefs, though there are some changes, but rate of change of their belief system is much slower than ours. So I like this submission, Prasida, because this is very individualistic submission. Under your lenses, you explain the things, and that is what is the nature cures objective. You know, the individualistic objective. So here I must comment that why to step out to change. You know, so don't ever try to change somebody who is not a seeker, because non-seekers will never be changed. We need to understand, and they are living their own life and they have their own set of beliefs, and let them lead their life. Why to comment or why to step out to change? If they have some problem in managing that set of belief, then we can actually act upon. Otherwise, stepping out proactively to change something is a kind of superstition. You must understand, and it is an innervating act too. Now, the next submission from Prasida is reflect upon the proposal of evil is an illusion. It's difficult for me to accept this thought now, after conditioning to the philosophy of tit for tat in an immediate settling. On the long run, my mind is conditioned to forget bad memories. Thanks to my life in Delhi to receive this immediate response to things without listening to anything. It is the oppression experienced for so long that I cannot face evil. Simple ego, if I was Eve teased earlier in the bus, which has happened innumerable times, I would sit quiet, cry perhaps, and think something is wrong with me for experiencing this. But today, My skin has become so sensitive towards unknown touch that my body immediately moves away, or it just punches the person, or I raise my voice to get away from that situation. I am not sure if I consider that person evil. I do understand there are many factors to which the individual is behaving in a certain way. I still full I still feel my recent developed reaction to that action at least gives me peace of mind. I have not refuted much to consider if it's an illusion or not. I have not reflected much to consider if it's an illusion or not. By the way, the act of reaction is performed, hitting, scolding, after observing through various situations to if it is a mistake or intentional act. Yeah, so mistake and intentional act. So intentional act is under that revenge category, and mistake is the knowledge category. So yeah, so this is again another rational submission, no observation. This is absolutely fine. So you need to look at the illusion aspect in kind of way that it is not bringing any good to the individual, whether it is acting evil or perceiving evil. So evil, all in all, from both the perception, is an illusion, because it is not bringing any growth as far as the nature structure does. So that way of reflection may be yeah. Yeah, Prasida. So from Tulika, there was no submission, and from Shiva also there was no submission. From Dr. Kaur, there is no submission. From Mr. Murthy, there is no submission. So that ends today's reflection. And yeah, so we'll have the 1.5 minutes of silence, and by that time, if some pressing comment is coming, I'll reflect on that, and then we'll resume tomorrow at 6 a.m. So now the silence. Okay, guys. So I think one comment from SP came in. My reflection. Yes, I agree. The intellect in my submission is a gray area. I could be right or wrong here. What I understand, the presence of intellect in other creatures and plants also cannot be stated true. It needs a subjective understanding and objective analysis to come to some conclusion. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you with this submission. So better to avoid going in that area in this particular reflection, because it doesn't hold any water in the reflection in a true dialectic manner. So right, guys, I don't see any further comments. So we'll reassemble at 6 a.m. tomorrow sharp. Till then, have a restful night. Good night. Bye-bye.